there, fellow marketers. Professor Wolters here, and today our topic is what you should never do on your professional social media accounts. So this is for you small businesses that like to use your personal Twitter feed as a business's Twitter feed, or those big corporations out there with their social media. There's some things you really shouldn't do, okay? And so we want to kind of go through some of those things. And really the first thing I want to talk about is really the biggest thing you don't do is not take social media seriously if you're a company. Look, I know not everyone thinks social media is really important. It's the thing. But the thing is, it is a thing. Whether you're in the B2B business or B2C business, business to business business or business to consumer business, it doesn't matter. Social media is important. This is where people are getting their information. They're doing their research online. They're watching those YouTube videos. They're reading those reviews. They're checking out your Facebook page and stuff like that to learn more. And we have to realize is for our brand, it is vital that you do have social media and you are using social media and you are engaging in social media with your followers and with your friends and with fans and with your clients, okay? So that's the first thing you don't do is don't not do social media, okay? Now, the next don't I have for you is don't buy likes, don't buy subscribers, don't buy followers, don't buy anything that's not like buying ads, okay? Why? Well, one, people like Google and Facebook and YouTube, they don't like that. That can actually look bad. I mean, Universal Music lost over 1 billion views because they were buying views for artists like Rihanna and Justin Bieber. I mean, let's be honest. Rihanna's got some awesome music. The Biebs, yeah, I'll bust a move with the Biebs, no problem. You have those kind of things, but they lost, combined, it was over 1 billion views. Poof, gone. And the thing is, think of it this way. If you find out someone is buying views and buying likes, you're like, what else are they buying off, right? It's kind of like when you find out people are buying fake reviews on their websites and stuff like that. You don't trust them anymore. And that's one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to break that trust you've built on social media because then your entire brand gets hurt, okay? And actually, this is actually an issue when you look at influencer fraud, like Instagram influencers or YouTube influencers, things like that. They can actually buy those subscribers and buy those views because then they look more attractive to businesses. So if you're, Coca-Cola or Brisk Iced Tea or whatever place, you see, wow, they've got 100,000 Instagram followers. We should do that. Well, if 50,000 of those are fake accounts, do you really want to work for them? No, you're wasting money. And so this is one of those things people have to think about. So don't buy likes, don't buy subscribers, don't buy followers. Because here's the thing, you buy that one subscriber and they never watch again, or they only subscribe. That actually hurts you because they're not interacting with you. It makes it actually look bad. I mean, how many YouTube channels you've seen have 2 million subscribers, but only get like 100,000 views a month? You're like, wait a minute. Something doesn't add up there, okay? So you got to think about those things, right? Now, another thing you don't want to do in your professional social media is criticize your competition. Now, the reason why I say that is, yeah, you could talk bad about your competition when you're like in front of them or when you're selling stuff directly, but on social media, you don't want to do that. You want to kind of stay above that, unless that is part of your brand. Like if your brand is like the bad boy brand or the bad girl brand that's going to call people out and say things like, yeah, our burgers are better than yours. Yeah, then you can do that, okay? Because that's part of your overall brand identity that you're really trying to set. But in general, you don't criticize your competition because you look petty. It's like if you criticize your ex's new boyfriend or girlfriend, does that ever make you look good? No, it makes you look bad. So don't criticize that. Make sure you're using best business practices. Share why you're good and why you're better than the competition, and instead of saying why they're bad. It goes the old adage, be careful if you kind of like try to advertise how bad your competition is too much, because then people remember your competition's name and not yours. Okay, so have a heads up for that. Now, another thing that can be a real big problem with social media is going on a tangent. Look, people sign up for your social media for a reason. If you're a humor channel, we sign up for humor. If you're a political channel, we sign up for politics. If you're the weather channel, I would like to learn about the weather, right? And so you have these things there. And when you go off on a tangent, you start talking about other things that aren't related to what people really want from your content, that's when they unfollow you. I mean, think about it. How many YouTube channels have you unfollowed because their topics are no longer relevant to what you want or relevant to what you purchased or what you wanted for? I used to love college humor. I mean, I'm a college professor and I love my students. I love like getting an idea of what they're going through because I'm old. I can't know what they're doing. So I can watch YouTube things and learn a little bit, right? And college humor was all about college humor, college jokes. But now everything's set in a cubicle and it's not college anymore. It's more like midlife crisis humor. And I'm like, I don't want that. And so I unfollow. And that's what you have to look at. That's why companies usually don't talk politics and stuff like that, because they know people are following us to learn about our tasty beverages, not our political stances, because that will turn people off. Because look, I'm here to listen to learn like what the new flavor of Coke is, not whatever. Okay, so you have to think about these things. So if you go on that tangent, do expect to lose people or people to be upset with you. Now, going along with that tangent thing, and I see this actually quite a bit when this happens, that is mixing personal and professional social media. This is one thing I've seen a lot with small businesses where their social media for their business is actually also their personal social media. You need to have separate feeds. You need to have, a business Twitter feed and your personal Twitter feed, a business page on Facebook and your personal Facebook page. Why? Because then you can separate it. Those tangents you want to talk about, you can do that on your personal one, not on the business one. And so what you want to do is when you set up your social media plan, make sure you do limit. This is what the things we do talk about and we don't talk about in our corporate social media. Okay, so have those things out there and don't mix that business and personal, because again, that's not what people signed up for. Now, another thing you should never do with your social media in a professional setting is really spam your followers. Like, I know you got a new product out, you got a new service out, great. But you know what? Maybe don't send out 15 posts in like a day about this one thing. It might be a bit much, okay? You need to think about is what's the right amount? Like, think about for you, how often do you want to be contacted about this deal at Old Navy? Do I need a thing every single day, like 6 times a day? Or is like, hey, this weekend, why don't you come stop by? Right? It's like, oh, once a week, once a month, that works best. So figure out the right amount to send to people, because what happens if you start spamming people just getting too much, you eventually tune people out. And so when you actually have good stuff to say, people aren't listening anymore. Okay, so you have to think about that. Another thing you don't want to do in your professional social media is be unprofessional. So make sure you're doing the grammar check, you're doing the spelling check, you're using, professional language and stuff like that. You want to do those things because you want to show that, look, we do a good job. We don't mess up in silly ways because we really pay attention. And that kind of leads into the next thing I would say is don't forget to read before you press send. Now, the unprofessional nature, yeah, we want to eliminate that. But sometimes, look, I got fat thumbs. You might not notice this, but I'm on the huskier side. And I can't tell you how many times I've been texting out a thing or writing out a post on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. I'm like, hey, we're going to have a live feed tonight. And it's like, hey, we're going to have a love feed tonight because this damn fat thumb hits the O instead of the I. And you're like, oh. Or how many of you have loved when auto spell check thingy, smart type, whatever you want to call it, changes the word you want to do, the word you want to say. You're like, no, it's supposed to be Gryffindor, not Gumbly-Goo. What the heck does that even mean? Now my post doesn't make sense. That's why you got to read through those things. Make sure you read through before you pick send. Did you use the right there? I mean, is it THERE, THEIR, THEY, apostrophe RE? I mean, which one are you using, right? You want to make sure you go through that. So if you eliminate those grammar errors, those spelling errors, all that kind of stuff, the fat finger errors, it can really help out. Because people notice when you mess up. I mean, when you see an article that makes fun of somebody or calls somebody out and then they have a problem with it or they misspell something, like, wow, you can't even spell arithmetic right and you're telling people how homeschooling's bad? Good job. Like, it just negates your entire post, everything you want to say. So you want to make sure you're going through there, you're making sure you're checking everything before you click send, okay? Another thing you don't want to do is you do not want to get angry at posts or comments. Look, trolls will be trolls. Believe me, we get them all the time on our other channel. It's kind of disgusting sometimes. But you know what? Duck on water on a duck's back. Just let it go off your back. Don't react angrily to those comments, because a lot of those trolls, all they're trying to do is to get you to react angrily, to get you to say something, and they're like, haha, I got them. I mean, think about it. Whenever you see people being mean to Walmart agents and they're filming it, I'm like, look, if you're filming yourself being rude to a Walmart checker, you're doing this because you want to get the reaction so you can put it online, right? So we as businesses need to realize, look, don't react angrily. Always stay professional with this. Have professional comments, have like standard answers when you have these things to answer those trolls, to answer those upset customers. Because if you get angry back with them, it just makes you look bad. And another thing I think is important and not making you look bad is don't lie about what you're doing in social media or overinflate what you're doing. Make sure you're just keeping it real with social media, because again, social media isn't like this polished world. It is building that kind of brand relationship. And people, yes, they do make mistakes, but they're honest with each other, tell each other stuff so they can trust what they're going to do. So don't lie, okay? Don't overinflate things. Don't do that, all right? Now, the next thing I want to talk about in terms of things you don't want to do is make sure you don't forget to have a social media schedule. Make sure you're planning out your post. You want to make sure you do have, we put out videos every Wednesday and Saturday, and you do put out content every Wednesday and Saturday, because people expect that. Because if you're all willy-nilly and you're posting all these different times, people aren't sure when they're supposed to expect your content. That's why you'll see it's like, the first Saturday of the month, we put out a new epic rap battles of history. And so people know, the beginning of the month, it's the first Saturday. All right, I got to look for that new ERB video, right? We do those things. And so you want to have that schedule and you want to stick to it. Because not just because of your viewers, because think about it, we all had our favorite show at 7 o'clock on Thursday nights, right? People get in the habit of when they're going to watch things. So they know that I'm going to watch a new travel video from Wolters World on Saturday morning because that's what's on Saturday mornings. People get into a routine. And the thing is, the algorithms that really run social media and stuff like that, they learn as well. And they learn that, look, people like watching Wolters World travel videos at 7 a.m. in the morning on Saturdays. And a new one pops up then. So we're going to make sure we're going to put that new Wolters World video up, that new travel video up on Saturday morning when it comes out, because people are usually watching that. So if I put out a video on a Friday or a Tuesday, it gets a fraction of the views. Why? Because the algorithm's like, what is this? Who am I supposed to serve this to? And my audience is like, well, I'm not used to watching a Wolters World video on Tuesdays. Why would I do that? Why would I watch that kind of video? That's why it's really important. Don't not have a schedule. Have that schedule and stick to it, okay? So be ready with that. Now, another thing I think is a really mistake that some people make on social media, especially in the professional settings, if they sound too smarmy, too used car salesman-y, when you try to oversell online, you're trying to sell stuff over there, you're going over the top, kind of going to that lie, overestimate, or overindulge kind of thing. When you have that, when it seems like it's just a commercial, people are not going to believe it's social media. This is an ad. This isn't social media. It doesn't work right, okay? So that could really turn people off, okay? And I think another mistake people make is they don't have a good balance of all the social media. Like, they'll have we post 6 times a day on Facebook with all this stuff, and then we post once every 9 months on Twitter, and we have a YouTube channel. Look, you want to have a balance. And the thing is, it might be that Facebook is your biggest social media platform. And so you do that. So do that how you're going to do. But make sure you're not neglecting the other platforms. Now, you might end up doing this. I'm not going to post anything on Twitter. And so what you should do is have that Twitter feed for your company and just say, this Twitter feed is for Bob's, restaurant in wherever, Illinois. But check us out on our website to learn more. And then you have no posts. You just have the information there. You want to have something, okay? But what you really want to do is have really a good balance of it. So when people are looking on Twitter, they find you on YouTube and they find you on Facebook. It's all there. And one thing I've seen over the years is you'll see that some companies do really well on one social media platform, but not really good on other social media platforms because maybe they're not putting the same effort into it. But also you might have sometimes it just works better, right? I see a lot of YouTubers that are huge on YouTube, but nobody watches their Facebook videos. Or Facebookers, they get billions of views on Facebook, but struggle to get anybody to watch their videos on YouTube. Like, wait, they're both videos. What's going on? There's different ways that you're using things. So what you want to try to do is balance those social networks. How can we make all of them strong? And sometimes you got to realize that strong is different in different things. Like if you're focusing more on videos, yes, YouTube should have a lot more effort into it, but you can use Twitter to help promote and do things with that as well. Okay, so try to have a nice little balance, okay? And another thing I think is important not to do is don't make your social media seem like it's a chatbot. When you get on there like, oh, thank you for this comment, or when people get on, I love this one, you have great content, you deserve more subscribers. Tom. I'm like, yeah. And you see like Tom comments the same thing on 50 different videos. Dude, that's total chatbot stuff. Even if it's not chatbot stuff, it sounds like it. So you don't want to do that. Make sure you're making social media posts for somebody. Like have a persona. We'll talk about this later. But have a persona, somebody you're talking to with this post. Who is this post for? It's not for male, age 35 to 45, handsome. No, it's for, oh, Mark, a professor, family man, likes to use YouTube videos. Like it's a lot easier when you have an exact person you're talking to versus male, 35 to 45. That's how you get the chat box. So don't do that. Focus on someone and talk to them. That's why it's good that you engage with your clients in social media, because then you get to know them. You get to see what's important to them. And then you can talk about things that really relate to them. And speaking of those people you're talking to, another mistake you see people make and things you should never do is not share. Look, you need to share other people's content. If you only put out your own stuff all the time, it's like me, eventually you get tired of me saying me, right? Well, sometimes people like you. So share other people's content. If your fans are using your product, if there's someone like, hey, I got my new car, like have that Ford company should have that people, look, it's Bob Smith with his new Ford Expedition. Do those things. Share their content. Because the thing is, you share people's content, they're more likely to share your content, right? And think of the goodwill you build. I know for us, there's a store called Meijer here, and they've got this little horse outside. And when my kids were little, they'd always get on there and we get pictures. And Meijer one time's like, hey, could we share your post? I'm like, sure. And I'm like, that kind of thing is like sharing the post of our kids being happening at their store, gave them content to share, but also made me feel good because, hey, they shared this thing and people are talking about our kids and everything's great. And like, wow, it made me want to go back to Meijer. And so sharing that stuff will really build the connection between you and your audience. And it shows other people that you're not just about yourself, you're willing to share other things out there. So that's why it's important when you develop what we call your curation strategy, which we'll look at later, make sure you have a lot of different people you're willing to share from, okay? Now, another thing you probably shouldn't do when you are here is not listen. Look, you need to listen to your clients. You need to listen to those Facebook followers, those YouTube commenters, because sometimes they could give you great ideas. Maybe they'll let you know what's working really well with your product, what's not working with your product, what they want from a new product. You can learn so much from them. So make sure you are listening to your followers. You are reading those reviews, because yes, sometimes people are just writing a bad review because they want to get something for free. But sometimes there really are issues that you need to address. And so we should really talk about that, okay? And I think the biggest mistake that people make, that professionals make with their social media accounts is they don't have a social media plan. Like I have a whole topic section on social media plans. Why? Because they're so important for our social media stance. You need to know what kind of content we're going to create. What kind of content are we going to get from other people? What platforms are we going to be on? When are we going to be posting? Who are we going to be posting to? What's our objectives for these posts? How well are we doing things? What do we need to do? Who needs to hire it? All this kind of stuff. And who's going to create it? We need to know all these things. You want to lay all those things out, because if you don't, you say, hey, Bob, why don't you do social media this week? Hey, Sahil, why don't you do social media this week? Tosh, you got it next week. Then you have all these different directions. There's no like one set pattern. And having that social media plan really, really, really does do a great thing for your business in terms of setting up social media, in terms of setting up, building that brand, building that online empire, if you will, okay? So I hope this helps you know some things you shouldn't do when it comes to social media for your professional account. Anyway, wish you all the best. Bye.